Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Sports Corner. I'm Cole Young, and we have some major news stories to get to. To start, for the first time in NHL history, the Florida Panthers are Stanley Cup champions after defeating the Edmonton Oilers in a nail-biter Game 7 and keeping the Stanley Cup on U.S. soil for the 31st straight season. It was no cakewalk to get to this point for the Panthers, though. Historically, the Panthers went through a streak of being, for lack of a better term, an embarrassment in the NHL. They made the playoffs just 5 times in 25 seasons. They made it to 1 Stanley Cup Finals in the 95-96 season, where they were swept by the Colorado Avalanche. After the Stanley Cup loss, things only got worse. The Panthers' home game attendance was a running joke throughout the league. In 2006, the Panthers were averaging over 4,100 free tickets handed out for each home game. In 2008, the team introduced the first-timer program, in which anyone with a valid Florida driver's license could get 2 free tickets to a game. In 2010, after LeBron James made his decision to take his talents to South Beach, the Panthers responded by offering season tickets in the upper deck for $6 per game in honor of his new uniform number with the Heat. Even that price point didn't generate enough sales. The team announced that summer that it was going to tarp off 2,000 upper deck seats for most of their home games. Then things began to turn around when Florida made the playoffs in the 2019 season. This was the start of a 5-year playoff streak. In the 2022 season, they made their return to the biggest stage in hockey, taking on one of the league's newest franchises in Stanley Cup Finals, the Vegas Golden Knights. Vegas would go on to win that series 4-1, beating the Panthers in a Game 5 by a whopping 9-3. Florida came back with a vengeance, though, finishing this season first in their division and third in the conference. They breezed through the playoffs, beating the Lightning, Bruins, and Rangers, earning their spot in the Stanley Cup Finals against the Edmonton Oilers. Florida then absolutely dominated Edmonton in the first 3 games, going up 3-0 and being on the verge of one of the biggest blowouts in finals history. But because it is the Panthers, nothing ever comes easy. The Oilers then blew out the Panthers in 3 straight games, winning 8-1, 5-3, and 5-1. The Panthers were about to be on the losing end of one of the biggest comebacks in sports history and were going to be on level with the 2017 Falcons' 28-3 blown Super Bowl. Game 7 was back and forth all game long and was suspenseful to the very end. Carter Verhaeghe put the Panthers on the board early, jumping out to a quick 1-0 lead in the first period. Edmonton's Matthias Janmark hit the equalizer on a breakaway goal on a sensational assist from Cody Ceci. Florida regained the lead with a slapshot goal from center Sam Reinhart, and the score remained the same until the final horn sounded and the Panthers survived with a 2-1 victory. The championship is the first for head coach Paul Maurice in his 26 seasons as a head coach in the NHL. On the other side of the ice, the Corey Perry curse lives on. It's been an insane 5 seasons for Perry after he left the Anaheim Ducks in free agency back in the summer of 2019. He signed a 1-year deal with the Dallas Stars, who ended up losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 2020 Stanley Cup Final. He signed another 1-year deal with the Montreal Canadiens in December of 2020. They, too, ended up losing to the Tampa Bay Lightning in the 2021 Stanley Cup Final. He got tired of losing to the Lightning, so he decided to join them in the summer of 2021. In his first season with Tampa, they lost to the Colorado Avalanche in the 2022 Stanley Cup Final. He was then traded to the Chicago Blackhawks and signed a 1-year deal, but after an off-ice incident led to his contract being terminated, he figured he'd sign up to play with a generational talent. And, as I'm sure you can guess, it was Connor McDavid and the Edmonton Oilers. He has now become the first player in NHL history to lose in the Stanley Cup Final 4 times in 5 years with 4 different teams. Another team won their first ever championship on Monday night. The University of Tennessee won its first men's baseball College World Series title in school history. Christian Moore hit a leadoff homer, Dylan Drelling went deep for the 3rd time in 3 games, and Tennessee narrowly survived anxious moments late to take a 6-5 victory over Texas A&M on Monday night in Game 3 of the Men's College World Series Finals. The Volunteers bounced back from a Game 1 loss to win 2 straight and become the first number 1 national seed in the NCAA tournament to win the title since Miami in 1999. The Aggies' offense averaged 8.5 runs per game for the season, but the Volunteers held them to just 6 runs over the last 20 innings of the finals. Aaron Combs struck out Hayden Schott and Ted Burton to end the game and set off a Tennessee celebration behind the pitcher's mound. Congratulations to Tennessee on their first title. I know the NBA ended last week, but another big story hit the NBA involving one of our local teams. The Los Angeles Lakers ended weeks of speculation with a bold decision hiring ESPN analyst JJ Redick as their new head coach on a 4-year contract. Redick now becomes the next man to take the helm for the Lakers, despite having zero coaching experience other than his son's 4th grade youth basketball team. However, he's shown a deep knowledge of the game as a studio and game analyst for ESPN during the past 3 seasons. He's also hosted a podcast with LeBron James, which adds to the reasoning behind the Lakers bringing him in. I'm curious to see how the experiment will play out in the coming NBA season. I keep mentioning how the Olympics are just right around the corner, man, they really are. Opening ceremonies are only 4 weeks from today, meaning the Olympic trials to see which athlete will be representing the United States are well underway. And a lot of the big names you already know will be competing in Paris this year, but as always, there's some newcomers. Some of these newcomers are turning heads and are barely, if not even old enough to drive a car. 16-year-old sensation Quincy Wilson out of Washington, D.C. has been running against competitors nearly twice his age at the U.S. Olympic track and field trials. Wilson broke the under-18 world record when he ran a 44.66 in the first round of the 400 meters on Friday. Then he broke the record again Sunday by running a 44.59 to advance to Monday's final. Unfortunately, on Monday's final race, Wilson finished in 6th place, which is 3 spots outside of the cutoff for the Olympic roster. Though Wilson failed to make the team as an individual runner and become the youngest male to ever do so, he will still have a chance to be part of the U.S. 4x400 relay team. The result doesn't take away from an incredible weekend for the high schooler after he set the world record for under-18 runners, a record that previously stood for 42 years. And yes, he still doesn't have a driver's license. Whether or not he makes the final Olympic roster this summer, he still has a lot to be proud of and will definitely be back in 2028. Before the Olympics, the 48th edition of the Copa America, the quadrennial International Men's Soccer Championship, is currently in the group stage of play. The U.S. is hosting this year, and they started out the Cup with a win over Bolivia. The U.S. scored a goal within the first 3 minutes of the match, and, of course, it was team captain Christian Pulisic putting the ball in the net to gain an early lead. The U.S. would then score again in the final minutes of the first half and would hold on to that lead to walk away with a 2-0 win. The first match was played at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, home of the Dallas Cowboys, in front of a crowd of just about 48,000 fans. The U.S. men's national team is entering their 5th participation in the prestigious competition, which was launched in 1916 and is being played in the United States for just the 2nd time ever. Pulisic is the only member of the current squad to appear in that tournament back in 2016, where the U.S. finished in 4th place. The U.S. faced off with Panama last night and will compete against Uruguay on Monday, so be sure to tune in to see how the USMNT fares throughout this tournament. That'll just about wrap up this week's episode of Sports Corner. We'll be off the air next week due to the 4th of July holiday, hence the outfit, so be sure to come right back in 2 weeks for more sports news and updates. I'm Cole Young, have a great weekend, happy 4th of July, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.